Hi, this is John Savage with Unwind Financial here again today. I just want to talk to you about a few things, actually in the area of investing and where to put your money, but also how that goes along with setting up a budget. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter today, hopefully, but just want to, in, in, in light of all the stuff that's going on with the economy right now, again, as I brought up in the videos, because it's a real thing, we need to take more seriously how we're managing our funds, especially those who have more. It's important to be very proactive about managing your money and more aggressively. You need to start making your dollars work for you instead of working for your dollars. A lot of people are still trying to work for dollars, whether it's going back to school or anything like that. If you can go back to school and be efficient with your time and your finances and have it paid for, great. If you need to kind of process things and take time to stretch it out over time and create a timeline, it's better to do that. Keep your monthly overhead low right now. I would say over the next 6 to 12 months, till we know more of what's happening, in our economy. A lot of people I've talked to right now, they're concerned about, we all are concerned about the economy, what the elections are going to be like. We got a week. This next week, we're going to definitely know the outcome of different things on one end or the other, responses to things, where we're headed, and what that might look like and how markets are going to respond, right? And markets aren't just markets, but they're people responding and making decisions in high places, which ultimately determines the flow, the ebbs and flows of our economy, whether that's dealing with mortgage bonds, municipal bonds, or whether that's dealing with any investments, options, long-term options, short-term options, because of outlooks and expectations of companies. So there's a lot that we have to look forward to right now and a lot of expectations. So with that said, these are the things you want to think about too. So when it comes to our time, our money, our resources, everything is a seed. I've said this before in the video, but everything is a seed. And we need to take that seriously. Some seeds don't produce as much, right? But you have to keep sowing seeds. You have to keep preparing and being prepared. You do your best to have things and have a plan. But ultimately, we only control so much in life. Okay, we can control a lot of outcomes, the more money we have, and have more decisions, if you will, but we don't control everything. All the variables that are going on, you don't control the markets. There are market makers that manipulate the markets, and in the stock exchanges, of course, people run to it. They get fear, missing out. They get excited, and they just start running as things they see going up. They start throwing their money in. Not always the best time. But then you have those who are like, okay, what do I do to protect myself? Well, one of the things is start off with the budget. So I can't emphasize that enough. It doesn't matter who you are. I've talked to people who are making two, three, 400,000, $500,000 a year. Then I've talked to those who are making literally $25,000 a year. And I had one situation where I was working for a young lady. She works for a particular company that's in retail. And she's been there for a while, in her 20s, mid late 20s. She's with her parents, been there for a while, and she saved tens of thousands of dollars in her bank account on a $25,000 income. Of course, she doesn't have a lot of responsibility. Went over some of the numbers. She doesn't have to pay rent and certain things like that. But it doesn't mean that's the reason she had the money in the account. She had the opportunity and she took advantage of the opportunity. She used her time as a seed to leverage the opportunity and leverage that being at home, not having to pay much in resources, pays very little for food, doesn't have to pay for utilities. Her parents are helping her out. So she was taking her time to use wisely to accumulate wealth over time. She also has the option to invest in company stock and, of course, get the 15% discount because she's not having to pay broker fees. And she can also dollar cost average in purchasing that stock as well. And this is, of course, pre-tax before she even receives her check to then put money into her emergency savings account. So she's done an excellent job. That's one example. I've seen others as well. And then I've talked to those many times. They have more, they spend more. I've known people, they make more, they don't give themselves a buffer, room of time to start saving and putting money aside. And they just start spending. I understand we all have needs. I have needs. We all have needs. But what is important to do, especially in this climate right now for the next 6 to 12 months, literally, you do what you want to do with this information. I'm just telling you. Is really focus on tightening your budget, being efficient with it. And there's nothing wrong if you can afford doing certain things. Make sure it's in your budget. Affordability is relative to the individual, your current financial situation, your income status, how much you have coming in versus how much you have going out. Even the flow of it, how fast is going out versus how much is coming in, depends on how you're managing your money in some cases. Others, it's just expenses going up. So that's eating up at everybody in their income. The value of the dollar has gone down. Like I mentioned over the last few years, going back, that the dollar expenses have gone up about another 12.5 cents per dollar. It's expensive. It costs money to make money, or dollars, if you will. Dollars, and let me preface this. So dollars is just a form of currency. What's currency? It's the flow of something, right? And so when there's a current, it flows from one place to another. Well, it's generated by something. Well, dollars, the American government owns the dollars. They can print whatever they want. There are over $35 trillion over the last few weeks now in our society here in America. It doesn't mean that money's being managed properly, but it does mean the dollar's been devalued even more. The more you print, the less it's worth. And so that's what's been happening. And so we have to, for those of you who have the opportunity to either segue and find a better opportunity and still do something you enjoy doing, making more money, this is the time to do it. Especially while you can, the window of opportunity. I don't care if you think it's only going to be 3 months or 6 months and you think something might happen with the economy. What can you do at the time right now with what you have in your pockets, with what you have in your hands? So just go over a quick rundown. I said this wouldn't be too long, but I'm going to go over a few things. One, look at your budget. I'm going back to that again. Understand what you have coming in, where your money is going. But also, I encourage people I've talked to and employees I've talked to throughout the years to look at your pay stubs. You don't have to look at them all the time, but at least do a check-in with yourself. Just like when I've talked about other videos, doing an insurance review at least once a year, or anytime there's a life event, which could be more than once a year. You want to do a check-in with your own household finances. If you're married, you talk to your husband or your wife about where you guys are at, how you're managing your money, how you're working together on managing your funds. If you put in money on credit cards, I have people who say, yeah, I'm paying it off on a credit card. Well, that's great, but I've talked to quite a few people who are overspending because they're putting everything on a credit card because there's no incentive to really track it as much because they might have a certain credit limit, but they know, well, I just pay off. I put 2, 3, 4, 5, I've seen $6,000 a month or more in some cases on a credit card. Well, what happens when there's an emergency? I brought this up before too. So there's something happens with the economy, or say meat, which is now as high as $15 a pound, depending on the meat, or 2 pounds. It's gone up a lot in just the last 3 years. I've watched it go up $1, $2, another $3 per pound, even 4. It's crazy. We're getting the same amount or even less in some cases for putting out more dollars because it's taking more to buy less because everything's been devalued. So what I would say is knowing where your money is going, knowing what your costs are. Once you know what your costs are, look and see if there's opportunities for you to manage those costs, whether it's variable expenses or whether it's your fixed expenses. But then you also got to take into account irregular expenses. I say that, and this is a perfect time right now with the holiday season. Where are we at? Where are we at with the holiday season? So we have Thanksgiving coming up, and we have what else? I mean, we already have stuff coming out a month in advance for Thanksgiving. And then we also have Christmas. Christmas decorations are already starting to be put out there. And a lot of people feel compelled that they have to start spending money. And there's the spiritual aspect, the relational aspect of it as well, right? We want to do for our families. It's a time to have some downtime and digress during the holiday season and rest and recharge. There's nothing wrong with that. Harvest time should be a time to where if we've accumulated, like the ants do, scripture talks about in Proverbs, look at the ants. God talks about, look at the ants, you sluggard. You see how they have no king, they have no authority over them. But yet what do? They work together in common because they're unified. They know what their focus is. Everybody has their part, and they store up for the wintertime and the fall time. So then when it's not time to work, what do? They can rest their bodies, rest their land, all those things which we should be doing, but we don't do a very good job of that. We're just constantly go, go, go. And when that happens with your life, it's hard to manage your budget, track your expenses, and know where you're putting your money. So anyway, when it comes to like the credit cards, you really want to look at where can you scale back on. That means taking an inventory of where you're putting your money. A lot of times I talk to people, doesn't matter how much making or not making, they don't know what they're putting on their credit cards. A lot of them have an idea. Many will say, well, I'm busy, after work, I'm tired. And we are being pushed more than ever. Technology doesn't make things more efficient. And it pushes people more because people feel like they have to manage people instead of manage processes. I'll talk about that later on a video and do more with leadership, because you want to manage processes and not people. You want people to be able to lead and manage themselves and manage the process. So anyway, I encourage you to really focus on your budget. And then next, what you want to do is focus on, okay, what's the outcome of your dollars? Are you in the red or are you in the black? If you're in the red or in the black, so if you're in the red, let's look, are you overspending or expenses have just gone up? Like rent went up a lot for a lot of people. Some people, their rent went up as much as 15, 20, 30% in some cases. I talked to people during the pandemic and after the pandemic who were getting into modular homes. I was even looking into that at one point, looking at more of a community where someone else owns the land, right? Well, if they own the land, which happened, people had some crazy numbers where maybe it only cost them $250 a month for their manufactured home, or $300 a month, or $400 a month, whatever it was. But the land where they were renting from the landlord who owned that space, they were charging $600-700. They were going up on the rent space, which was crazy. So it was taking their numbers way over, in some cases, more than what they were paying for their manufactured home. Doesn't matter if it was 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or even 3 bedroom. So those are things that you can't necessarily control per se. It just depends on where you're at, if you own the land or you don't own the land. So there's a lot of things, I get it, where expenses have gone up. So that's why we have to be more smart about our money, and first just understanding where our dollars are going. Because if you don't know where your dollars are going, wherever you're sending them to, someone else does, because they're taking that money to reinvest in their businesses, reinvest in their own household, and to reinvest and make those dollars work for them, so those dollars can earn more dollars, so they can continue to expand and increase what they're doing, regardless of what your situation is in many cases, unfortunately. So when it comes to investing, first, once you know where your money is, see if there's any habits you need to change by looking at your regular expenses, looking at your spending habits each month. Well, planning for regular expenses, looking at your spending habits. So when you look at your spending habits, the numbers are going to tell you something. Numbers always tell a story. And all you're trying to do, I tell people to go back at least 3 months, all the way up to 6 months at least. That's going to give you a good mean or average of how you typically manage your dollars, what you have coming in, what's going out. If you see any spikes one month and spikes the next month, it's kind of all over. That means you're just maybe probably mismanaging your dollars, or you could be going through a real hardship situation, or you're just not tracking your dollars well. You're trying to, but you've never taken the time to sit down for 30 minutes to an hour and just say, where exactly is my money going? There's those who also have money that's coming out automatically. So sometimes it's a matter of like rearranging where your money's at, almost like a Rubik's Cube. You just want to rearrange where everything is at. It's there. You might have it, but rearrange it. Once you've done that and you find out how to free up money in your budget, then there's a lot of times I've talked to people who are putting a lot of money maybe into retirement, or they're spending as much as $1,000 a month to $1,500 a month eating out. Now, most people I talk to can afford, separate of groceries, spending anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 or $18,000 or more eating out, and then spending another $5,000 to $10,000 in groceries each year. Most people I talk to are not able to do that. So if you are in a situation, or you're just overspending an extra $200 a month beyond what you said you're budgeted, then they're trying to put some markers in place. And one of the ways you can do that is, one, pay yourself first. So once you know where your money's going, pay yourself first. Start with an emergency savings account where you have it on a high yield savings account. Right now, when the economy is weak like this is, banks are losing dollars, people pull their money out of banks, or they just don't have it. You have millions of people overdrawing, getting overdraft fees. The banks don't have money on hand. They're not all equal. You could have 10 big name banks with different initials, whether it's C, or W, or B, or H, or any of those. What you want to look at is managing your dollars effectively by making them work for you. So that means putting systems in place. Those systems can be high yield savings account. I know I've talked a lot, but I want to just go over this and I'll show you here. But with the high yield savings accounts, your dollars are working for you. Sometimes people want to be aggressive with how they put their money in place, but you don't want to be aggressive with putting your money in place if you don't have any money. You want to be consistent and you want to have balance. You want to be more maybe moderate. And when I share these things, these are just tips. This is not a financial advice. You have to do your own due diligence, but these are some things I want you to be thinking about. Just consider. These are different strategies out there that you can use, but it's also dependent on your specific situation. So right now, for everything going on and in light of we don't the uncertainty with the United States elections, and we don't know who's going to be making what decisions that can affect people in one tax bracket or the other, or everybody across the board. There's a lot of uncertainty. So with that said, any area where you have a matter of concern, then focus on where you can sow your dollars, invest those dollars so they can grow. And then how you want them to grow is going to depend on your risk tolerance level, your current financial situation, if you have a lot of debt, if you have little debt, or if you have no debt at all. I talk to all the range of people in those categories. So you want to start where you're at. If you have to start small, work your way up over time. Work your way up over time. Start small and work your way up in increments. So I tell people, as you have a lot of debt here and you want to start investing and saving your dollars more and you want them to increase, first start with the high yield savings account. As you pay debt down, incrementally increase your savings strategy and create a timeline of this. Don't just do it as you and have a goal. Your goal might be, okay, as soon as I pay off this credit card, excuse me, as soon as I pay off this credit card, I'm going to increase my savings strategy some more. I'll pay off another one, increase my savings strategy. Pay off another one, increase my savings strategy. Now, before you know it, over time, you're here. Now, all of a sudden, you flip those dollars because now you're more aware of where your money's going. You've cut costs. You've been more efficient about your dollars. Now you have $1 making $3, $5, $10, and so forth. Whereas before, $1 was costing you $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, because every time you spent on that credit card and carried a balance or borrowed money because you were being reactive instead of proactive, you were actually paying more in interest fees that would cost you 3 to 4 times what that dollar was. So in other words, many times we're paying 2, 3, 400, even 500% of what we initially put in to do a transaction. So think about that. You're spending money to pay more money out. It doesn't make sense. You want to pay out less money, pay off debt, so you can earn more money and make your dollars work more for you and work harder for you. But over time, guess what happens? You're working less and less and less. The work and the ability at which you work, the rate at which you work, and the effort will oftentimes, not always, correspond with your efforts based on how hard your dollars are working for you. But also you have to have a system that is consistent. So with that said, what do you do when the economy is where it's at and the dollar is weak? It's not really worth much. There is perceived value. So as long as there's value tied to it, and the government and the companies have all locked in and everything's controlled and tied to the dollar, and they're not willing to entertain other options of compensation, such as cryptocurrency in some cases, or some other strategy for profit sharing or gold or silver, bartering, whatever that might look like. As long as you don't control that dollar bill, then someone else is in control of part of your finances. In other words, when you're taxed 25% of your time or 1/4 of the year or 3 months out of the year, you're actually working for free. You're literally working for free because we don't know where those dollars go. We know in part, but we do not know in full, especially state level versus the federal level. We don't know where all of our dollars are going because once they go in one pot, if they're not used, even though they've been earmarked, there can already be a system or a plan in place to reallocate those dollars again. Now they've been in the system, right? Kind of like, I won't get into anti-money laundering, things like that, but there's a way of washing money and doing things like that, right? And for those of us who have fiduciary responsibility, if we see red flags, like with insurance policies that are cash value, then those have to be presented accordingly to whoever that compliance officer is. So anyway, I won't get into that, but the whole point is you don't know where all your dollars are going. Just know that someone's going to take them and make sure they're working for them harder than they're working for you. So that's why we have to know what our budget is, know where our money's going, take an inventory of our credit cards or checking accounts, and how we're managing our dollars first. Once you've done that, you invest it, you find some vehicles invested in, starting with the high yield emergency savings. That way, People say, don't put your money in a savings account. Well, you want to be liquid. So you want to have some kind of money. I would say don't put it all in one bank, definitely after what we've seen over the last 3 years, especially if there's any buy-ins or um, things like that. So what you want to do is just be careful of if you can't get all your money out or any of your money out of a particular financial institution, well, you have options because you've allocated your funds in different places, but you got to start somewhere. So you can keep some cash on you just for emergencies. Things go down like what happened with Costco about a year and a half, 2 years ago, where all the systems shut down throughout the country. They were only taking cash. I was talking with someone that I knew right then, and I heard one of the employees talking to him while he was out there trying to get gas before he was going to go in and get some items for business he was working on. Couldn't do it because he didn't have cash on hand. High yield savings account, investing in gold and silver. You can have gold IRAs. There's all types of opportunities where to preserve your assets and go out in God's economy. God created gold and silver, rhodium, platinum, all these different great precious metals that not only can you convert them and barter for other things that you might need, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's food, things get really tough, you're able to convert and barter, right? But also they go up in value because demand goes up. If there's fires, buildings are destroyed, and say you have money in a safe and you're able to get some of it out or you don't, and it was stored somewhere, it's burnt up, the insurance companies only cover so much of that. But preserving your assets and also growing them when demand picks up, you have gold, silver, rhodium, they all play a purpose. They're all being used right now in different ways, shapes, and form, from space exploration, maybe some very expensive earth moving equipment to dig to find precious metals, diamonds, precious stones, things of that nature, or to do other digging, building, roads, oceans. You need something that's very strong and durable to be able to do some of the things that are needing to be done, whether it's for weapons, different things like that. Gold is a great conductor. It's good. It's used for healing and clothing. It's used for all types of things. For antennas, it's used in iPhones, Samsung phones, you name it, it's used in different type of devices. Silver, same thing, can be a purifier, neutralizing bacteria. It's used for socks, diabetic socks. So these are things that have a diversity of uses. The dollar bill, for example, or any other country throughout the world, their currency has their name on it. It lets you know we own this, and it's tied to the value of the state of our economy. And whatever that looks like, up or down. Zimbabwe, you have a billion bills in a barrel that wasn't worth much of anything because their economy just crashed. Nigeria is going through a lot right now. I think currently had a conversation last few days that the Naira is around 1,600. Of course, it fluctuates the exchange rate throughout the day and the week, but also there's geopolitical things going on with different countries, right? So they can fluctuate. And so with that said, that's another way for war games to be played, if you will, socioeconomic issues and challenges with global economies and globalization and having resources. I know Trump has talked about it, for example, of bringing manufacturing back here. He actually mentioned about North Carolina. I don't know if he's ever mentioned Hickory, where I actually went to school, but it was the furniture capital of the world. Well, a lot of those jobs, I watched them go like this as I was getting ready to graduate and the economy go down there. It took a big hit. At one point, it was in the USA Today paper because of all the manufacturing plants and companies that were there that influenced and helped do a lot of production for the United States. So a lot of things have been affected. Dollars have been affected. Costs have gone up, and where we put our money does matter. Sorry, I kind of got off a little bit tangent there, but the whole point is there's things that are happening that we can't control, but I also want to address the variables. With that said, let me get into a couple other things real quick. I just want to go over some ways you can also make your dollars work for you. And resources where you can put your money. Second. Guys. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here. I want you to take a look at something. So right here, as an example, I've actually done some things with Glint here, tested it out. So this is a card here where you can actually buy gold and you can buy fractional pieces of gold. So what I mean by that is not everybody has $2,500, $1,500, depending on where gold has been over time, to put money into buying one gold coin or even one gold bar. Definitely not. Unless you have 250,000 to do it. Now, there's people who do have that, but we're talking about the common masses every day. So with the Glint card, you can actually have money and you can have it on auto deposits working for you. So you can buy at any time you want, you save, and you can spend it. I've done this. It's pretty cool. I've done it before where I tested out the card, I did some transactions, and literally later on that day, short time later, I watched it went from one amount because I had spent money, I didn't put a lot in there, but then it went up even more than what was in there because the price of gold was fluctuating. And that means if it went from $1,000 to another $1,000, I could turn around and do a purchase on silver somewhere or some other precious metal or move money around and buy certain items, whereas I wouldn't be able to get that before. But because of the value that had increased on my storage there on my device, I was able to get more with it. So that's pretty cool there. With the dollar, you're going to get what you're going to get. Taxes are taken out before you get it. Say you have $70, 70% of your dollar, or in some cases, 60% or less of your dollar left. Especially for those who are dealing with garnishment, it could be 50% or less of what they're taking home, which is pretty tough. But when you move money over and have it automatically divided up or deposited into separate accounts, you can split up your work check. So Glint, I would suggest you take a look at that. You do what you want with it, but they have a great system. They have some cool things that are supposedly going to be coming here in the next few months. So take a look at them. They did have at one point where you were having to pay $10 to do the processing and have a card set up and sent to you and all that good stuff. But as a company grows, obviously they're going to offer more features and they streamline how they do their services and what they offer their customers. But this is a way to have cash on the card and also spend gold. But when you spend it, it'll show you how much you spent in grams and how much you have in grams, ounces, and so forth. And what you can do is call that gold, because at one point it's sitting, whatever is in there is already protected and it's out of this country as far as where the vault is and being protected as far as the asset goes. So say you've accumulated $1 million worth of gold, you can actually call that and have that sent to you if you want to have some of that sent versus keeping all the value in your card, which is pretty cool. So that's one thing. There's those who've been talking more about IRAs. So you have gold IRAs, of course, there's crypto IRAs and so forth. But right here, simplify your IRA experience. So AppMex, I like AppMex. I like how they operate. They're seamless, really cool platform. But with them, what I like about it is that they give you the opportunity to invest in smaller shares or smaller coin amounts, whether it's a single coin you want to send each time, and you can have it scheduled. So when you get paid, I always suggest too, when you're investing in certain things or having savings, give yourself a little bit of time to make sure your money settles in your account, depending on how you get paid. Because sometimes people aren't always getting paid the same. I've experienced that where the check is so many hours and then it's so many hours. And so whatever you can afford and feel comfortable with, start there. Like I mentioned earlier, start small and work your way up over time. And as you accumulate more wealth, the value is going to increase. Silver and gold will continue to increase. It's always been a trusted source since the beginning of time. So when you're going back to the Tigris River, you're going back to Euphrates River, where there's supposed to be hidden gold now. There was 4 rivers that split up coming out from the Garden of Eden, which is pretty cool. And there was precious stones of all kinds, beryl, lapis lazuli, which is really cool. But anyway, this has been around since that time, since the Garden of Eden. And I would say even before, but without getting all things biblical, the whole point is this is what God has put there in the earth for us. It's how we steward is what matters. And I'm sharing this information too, because sometimes people don't know where to start, what platforms to go to. Again, I can't tell you what to do. I'm just sharing my experience. I like AppMex. I think they're really cool in what they're doing. I love how I can order. I can have it scheduled. Don't have to think about it. And what you want to do, I mentioned it earlier, creating systems for yourself. So this is a cool way to create a system for yourself to work for you. You don't have to look at it. It's out of sight, out of mind. There's many people I talk to, they don't have the discipline to go in And maybe some of us where we like to look at it and see what's going on with the spot rates at that time and do it. It's okay just to have a system working for you. Okay. But they have deals going on all the time. Rare coins, for those who are in rare coins, that's called numismatic and type investing. So where it's dealing with collectibles, different type of coins. Uh, and then you have the different currencies. So you can get Zimbabwe notes. I actually did that. Just was doing some research some time ago just to do it. But there's a little more tied to it. It's a little more in depth of things that could be happening. But the Zimbabwe notes, there's a reason they're out there and they're floating out there. You have palladium. Uh, you have stocks and bonds, things that are tied to that. Like I said, the IRAs. So IRA is an individual retirement account. So you have more control over that because it's your account, you control it versus a 401k, TSP, 403b, and 403a. So those are tied to like municipalities with the 403a, and also the 403b, that is for could be tied to municipalities as well and governments, or a lot of teachers have 403bs, and not everybody's always able to get their money out. They don't always have hardship withdrawals and things like that. So I tell people, if you have all your money in a retirement account, which I did have a conversation with someone, they have plenty of money going through a real hardship, but it was costing them a lot more money, hundreds of dollars in interest a month and other fees, because they couldn't access it because they didn't have the option to do a hardship withdrawal, because a hardship withdrawal was considered a like buying a new home or maybe something for education for certain things. But if you notice something, all those are tied to basically tax triggered vehicles. So that's another conversation as well. So anyway, I know I'm giving you guys a lot, but I'll keep it moving for now. There is also kitco.com. So when I first started out, there was a lady I was working with. She was working part-time and she started to mentor me before I was laid off. I was like, but I didn't know where to start with gold and silver. I knew my father had some. When I was younger, I would go and look at some of his stuff and I was all excited about it. I was like, oh, cool. Of course, he never gave me any of it. But we talked some more and she led me on to Kitco. So that was the first official site that I was led to. And she was sharing with me about investing in gold and silver right before I was laid off. And I had more questions for her. So it took a while before I came back around to it. But I never forgot the seed that she planted in my head for me to do more due diligence later on in time once I got more settled. And it came back around. So I just started doing some research on the platform. And I've done some stuff where I've ordered from kitco.com before. And what's great about them, they're a really reliable, trusted news source. They've been around for a long time where you can check the markets. And they even now, which wasn't on there before, crypto. So you can go and look at all the different crypto news that's going on, whether it's private equity, investing, a lot of stuff that's tied to it. You hear about BlackRock. BlackRock is tied to everything. Bitcoin, you know about that. They're talking about fraud exposures right now. That's still going on, but that's being consolidated in the crypto market. So crypto has a huge opportunity. You just need to know what you're looking at and not just look at the overall picture of being influenced by media, because those of you who have the opportunity are missing opportunity, who have it and have money to invest without feeling like, okay, what if I lose this? So anyway, kitco.com is great to just read a lot of news on. It's more than enough news. So you want to find a focus. If you just want to focus on silver first, focus on silver and just continue to learn as you go. Mining. So you want to learn about different mining companies right now. That's great. Maybe there's some small stocks you want to get involved with. But yeah, so kitco.com is great. And then this is another thing too, I think you may have seen here. So they all have different like trust accounts that are set up, equity accounts. If you have a trust account where you have money going in or out of, you have a form and they would give you that form and tell you the process about moving money in and out, investing in different precious metals and rare earth metals. And I also want to go over another one here, rhodium. So no one really talks about rhodium. Rhodium is worth almost twice as much as gold. So back in here, $29,800 approximately, or just above that at one point in March 2021. So that's a very durable, hard metal. It's a rare earth metal for sure. It's being used on different vehicles, reflective surfaces, but they also have to be able to withstand heat in different high grade temperatures, whether high or low. And so there's so many things when it comes to precious metals and the needs, space exploration, creating all types of weapons and things like that, and even just instruments, dental instruments, electronics, all these things are used in so many different sectors of our society. And we need things that are going to be more durable and not just this constant wear and tear, but hence with the cost as well. And then, of course, you have your commodities. So those who are more savvy or want to get more into it, you can research on trading economics here. Platform I found. Uh, we're talking about crude oil, Brent, natural gas, heating oil. That's a big one. I talked to a lot of people where their heating oil is several $100s, sometimes a month, in some cases, especially those who are in maybe North Dakota, Michigan, or certain states like that where it gets really, really cold and their winter months are longer than Texas or California per se, or lack thereof for Florida, things like that. And then, of course, soybean, which is used in everything. I have my qualms about that, but again, these are all different vehicles for investments, not just here in this country, but while we're having issues, even when dealing with other countries right now. When one thing happens, it affects the United States as well and the people. And there's for a reason for that. All right, and then Money Metals, here's another company. So you want to know more about rhodium? It's another one you can take a look at. This is really cool. So again, here's what the rhodium bars look like. You want to get an idea of what it costs. And you can, again, schedule these things to be ordered. Once you pay more than a certain amount, depending on the platform you're on, whether it's Money Metals, AppMix, Kitco.com, JD Bullion, or something else, those platforms will have like free shipping once you order above a certain amount. If you want to have your precious metals actually sent to you, or if you want to have it stored. So you have to read more on your own to find out what all options are available, or if you're investing in certain allocations within the IRA with these companies. So there's a lot of great opportunity. I would suggest definitely put your money where it's going to grow and increase in value and retain its value, because that's what you're looking at. You want something more stable. Having it in a dollar and just having money in the account, even if it's not a high yield savings account, it's not going to do anything for you. Now, if you want to lock in interest rates, you can also do CDs as well, besides just bonds. I used to wonder, why is someone just getting a 3-month or 6-month or 9-month CD? Well, you might have $150,000 you just got from an inheritance, and you're like, I've never had this kind of money before. I'm not sure what to do with it. Well, you can lock the rate in. Maybe it's at 5.5% interest that you're getting, but it'll be locked in. It doesn't matter what happens with the interest rates going up or down. It's not going to affect anything. So as long as you've locked in before that time, then you're going to earn whatever yield is based on the money you put in those accounts. And of course, whether it's a particular high yield savings account, CD account, or something else, one of the things about those is you um, there are some where you can have a $0 amount. There's others where you got to put in $1,000 or $2,500. So that does affect obviously the yield you're going to get, right? Because they'll tell you, and they're based on products. So they're different products, if you will, financial products. But those can be a great thing as well if you're getting some lump sum dollars. I've talked to people who've had inheritance as many as 2 or 3 times, and they end up being in debt multiple times. They paid off their debt, but the money was gone again. So you want to, if you're not sure about stability and what to do with the money, put it somewhere, let it work for you where you know you're going to yield a certain amount of interest over a period of time. That's locked in. That's not going to change due to market rates changing. Okay. Well, anyway, I've said it quite a bit more than I thought I would. Of course, I usually do that on the videos. But if you have questions for me about just going over a budget and you want to work with a financial counselor, I'll be more than happy to work with you. If you need an insurance review, I'll be more than happy to work with you as well. But my goal is to educate people, to see them thriving, reducing debt, eliminating as much debt as possible, especially because I do believe there's going to be more turbulent times. For those who are homeowners, prices and value, maybe you want to move and you won't be able to get the same thing for a house. Maybe it's underwater. When things change in the next 6 to 12 months, we don't fully know, right? It also depends on what zip code, location you're in. So there's a lot that's going on. But I would say right now, cut costs as much as you can. Just by doing that, you're going to increase your expendable income that's available to you. 2, it's going to free up more dollars to pay off debt faster. 3, as you pay off debt, you can increase your savings to more you can save, what's going to happen? The more you'll yield if you have a high yield savings account. And four, if you're putting in an investment account and you start putting some dollars in investment, whether it's directly with the company, whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, doesn't matter who it is, if you have the option to invest in your company directly and get that additional benefit, and you can do it at fractional shares to do dollar cost averaging, at least you can do a certain amount, know you're accumulating over time, but also putting your money in other vehicles like precious metals, gold IRAs and so forth, or even Bitcoin IRAs for those who want to do that. You're having your money work for you. Now, keep in mind, some will have more risks than others, but over time is what you're looking at. You don't want to do an investment just to, like I said, unless you're parking your money, but you want to guarantee some returns while it's sitting so it's working for you, especially with the way inflation is. So those are just some tips anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I kind of went over a lot, and I'm working to just share more videos over time where I'll go over other things and maybe spend more time on specific investment vehicles over time. Again, this is not financial advice, but it's education and guidance. And just to let you know, there's tools out there, resources out there that are available to you. Sometimes you just have to spend some time digging. Sometimes we just need some additional support to know that, hey, this is out there, but let me do some more research to learn more about it and find out what works for you, but also understand your risk tolerance level. But it's not just that, also understanding your goals. So it goes back to the budget. Your goals will help you dictate how you set your budget up, how you manage your money, where your dollars are going, and how much you have to work with over time. All right. So until next time, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Share, like, comment, reach out to me. You can go to, if it's for insurance, it's uwfinsurance.com. It's uwfinsurance.com. Or if you need some financial counseling and you want to start there, you can go to my website at unwindfinancial.org. That's unwindfinancial.org. Till next time, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. God bless you, and unwind.